folks. I wanted to take a few minutes to show you how easy and kind of fun it is to build a fully self-hosted AI pipeline using Exasol. Thought this would be a good challenge for us to tackle together, and it really opens the door to a lot of opportunities about what you can build with Exasol, language models, and a ton of cool stuff you can do with AI and SQL when you pull all these pieces together. So we set some simple goals here. The first is let's pick a pretty attainable use case. I want to do AI article summarization. Pretty standard, tons of relevance across lots of different industries. You can imagine summarizing financial documents, medical documents, call transcripts, product summaries, user reviews, the list goes on and on. So it's a pretty good representative use case. Now, my goal here is completely local end-to-end deployment. Everything you see here, I'm going to run on my own machine. And there are a couple reasons for that. First of all, no cloud costs. Now, I could run this on AWS and it would be pretty cheap, GCP, Azure, pick your cloud, very portable, but I'm choosing to run it all on my local machine. Also, I want no token costs, so I'm going to use completely open source software as well as open source language models to keep my costs low or in fact free for this. And I also want end-to-end control over my data. I don't want anything talking to the open internet. I'm going to run this all on my local machine. And finally, I want to be able to do this via SQL. I want to be able to call a language model directly from SQL and see those results in real time. I want to do this all in my database if possible. So those are the goals. What are the components that I need? First, I need an Exasol database, and I'm going to run one on Docker because I also can do that for free, up to 10 gigabytes. Easy way to get started. Then I'm going to use Ollama, since that's an open source model hosting solution. I'm going to use one of the Mistral models, the 7 billion one for this. That's going to give me a kind of good distribution of both size and capabilities of the model. And then finally, I'm going to use user-defined functions within Exasol to orchestrate all of this and run it via SQL. So first things first, let's get a database up and running. I've done this all in Docker. Here you can see I have an Exasol database running. It's been up for a little while as I do some testing, and I've already connected to that from DB Visualizer. This is as easy as spinning up your Exasol database, establishing a new connection, and we're off to the races. If this is your first time doing it and you're following along, it can take about 10 or 15 minutes to get this up and running. Now, I've already uploaded some sample data here, and we're going to get into that in a moment. But the next piece I need a way to actually host my models. And so for this, I'm using Ollama. Now, here's the desktop app of Ollama, but I'm actually running it in the backend, and I've tested out a variety of different open source models. Like I said, today I'm going to be using one of the latest Mistral models. And we can actually see what Ollama is up to. Here's my model running. As I start to hit it, we're going to start to see some logs generate here as we start to interact with that model. Okay, so I have all of the different pieces. I have a database, I have a model running, and I have some sample data. So now we need to get into the nitty-gritty and actually start writing some functions. So let's start by just getting a sense of the data that we're working with. Like I said, I want to summarize news articles. So the organization of the data is pretty straightforward. I have a row per article. It's got the entire text of the article, as well as some metadata. We've got the date, heading, and the type of news. So how do I go ahead and create a function in SQL that will summarize this article? It's actually pretty darn straightforward. Most of the meat of what happens here is going to happen in this function right here. And I'm going to go through it piece by piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define an actual function. We're going to call this one summarize article. And it's just going to take in that text blob, that article text. Then it's going to return the result, which in this case is going to be a summary of the article. Now there's two libraries that I'm using for this, and I'm going to write this function in Python. I'm going to use the requests library, which is going to allow me to call out to my local language model. And I'm going to use the JSON library to parse the results as they come back. Now, on first glance, this function might look a little complex, but it's kind of crazy simple when you get into the details. So first of all, we just want to grab that text as it comes in. So this is just parsing and pulling that text from um, the function itself. And we're going to do a little bit of cleaning just in case there's any blank spaces on either side. And now we're going to try to send that text to our model. So first we specify the model. We're going to use the latest Mistral model. Next, we want to create a prompt. Summarize this news article in exactly one brief sentence. And then we're going to append the text that we want it to summarize. I want to keep this tight. I don't want a streaming response. I just want a single bulk response from this payload. And I put two little toggles in here. First, I want to keep the temperature low because I want to minimize hallucinations. This is a pretty simple task. I don't need the model to do anything crazy. And then I'm going to minimize the number of prediction tokens here. We're going to cap that at 50. I really want to force a short answer. And that's going to help keep both the responses short as well as keep this executing relatively quickly. Now I'm going to send this to my locally hosted model. So all I've done here is specify my IP as well as the API necessary to hit that Mistral model. It's as simple as that. Now we're going to get that result back, and we're going to pull out just the prompt response, and we're going to return that as the output of this function. And we'll do a little error catching here as well. So that's it. Now, to actually set this up, I need to create this function within Exasol. Now, I've already created it. Oops, actually I haven't specified the schema. There we go. Excellent. All right, so we've now created this function. Actually, if you're curious, you can see it in scripts here under UDFs. There's our new user-defined function. Now I already have the data here, so all I need to do is test this out. So let's go ahead and test out this function. Now, for the first time we run this, that model is actually going to load. So we're going to see it take a little bit longer. Oh, it went pretty darn fast. Here we go. We have the heading, we have the summary, and then we have the complete text of the article. Ooh, excellent. Now, let's say I want to do a few more of these. So we can run that. Now, if we pop over here, we can actually see in our logs all of those queries hitting the Mistral model that I'm running within Ollama. Remember, I'm running this all on my local machine. And we get a little bit more information here. We get the duration, what type of API call is coming, and so on and so forth. We could probably pull a lot more data from here, but all we really need right now is the output. So let's see how we did. And there's our results. We have the heading, we have the summary for each one of these articles, short and sweet, and we are done. So in about, 5-6 minutes, we completed our task. Let's revisit what we were trying to build here. We wanted AI article summarization, local end-to-end deployment, no costs, being able to call that language model directly from SQL. I would consider that a pretty big success. And let's go see what we can build next. Thanks for joining, folks. Enjoy.